Star Trek, the ultimate franchise. These are the voyages of 3 veteran Trekkies, Rich, Ian, and Toby. Their ongoing mission? To explore the vast Star Trek universe, to seek out new perspectives and fresh debates, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. Beyond the Final Frontier.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Final Frontier, a Star Trek podcast with me, your host, Rich Matthews. And as always, my fellow Voyagers, Mr. Ian Spelling.
Hey, everybody.
And Mr. Toby Weidman.
Hello.
This week, we're bringing the pew-pews. Yes, it's time for our top 7 favourite Star Trek space battles. Even though we probably do know which one we're all going to put number 1. But we'll gloss over that for now. Maybe Toby will surprise us. He often does.
Well, I'm just going to say that there is an obvious omission in my list.
Oh.
Which I'll leave it because I'm sure you guys are going to put it in there, but yeah.
Okay. Coy, I like that. Bit of coyness up front. Mine are probably entirely predictable, alas. But there we go. To begin, my number 7, my 7th, is unusual for me, but I
know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
The Battle of the Binary Stars.
Battle of the Binary Stars.
Not again!
Just the way you introed that. I knew what you were going to... That's so funny. I'm your bald-headed twin. That's what I am. Go ahead.
So, yes, it's the opening 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery. So the Vulcan Hello and then Battle of the Binary Stars. Because I was trying to think about how I felt when it started. Now, obviously, we didn't take to it, but one thing that was undeniable was the epic scope of that whole exchange and the space battle itself. And it was all possibly everything was still possible, it felt like. It felt distinctive. What we didn't know, I think, at the time was that was going to become the visual style of virtually every space battle that followed after that point. It felt like a declaration of a new aesthetic at that point for that show. And it was a good showcase for digital effects and digital ships. And the scale was huge, if a little chaotic. But as something that starts off a Federation Klingon war, it seemed to totally make sense. And I think actually, especially the second episode, the battle episode itself, Adam Kane did a really fantastic job with the editing of those sequences. And I think anything that's really flawed about the episode is more about everything else rather than that. I think it's epic and grand and exciting and yeah. So there you go, it's my number 7. And so we also know is Ian's.
I'm going to quickly agree with every word you just said. I would add in that I thought the music that accompanied the chaos was appropriately exciting and chaotic. I thought it matched the imagery on the screen. I will say that as excellent as the visual effects were, and I've had this point multiple times in our podcasts here, I really feel that, and this is not a knock on Discovery, this is a knock on current special effects, still feeling like special effects. It does feel digital to me. I still miss models. I miss shit blowing up one way or the other, actually blowing up. Digital models just are digital. They're not real. So when they blow up, there's no dimension to it for me. But all in all, I thought it was an important sequences of battles within those 2 episodes, and I thought they were extremely well executed. So yeah, I'm right with you. I'd give that number 7. Tobes?
Surprise, surprise, Discovery is absolutely nowhere near my list at all.
You heartless bastard.
I find the space battles just headache-inducing. Yeah, they're not for me. Shooter, pew, pew, very definition of it. I would say that what I decided to do, just to keep the variety up, is that I've only picked 1 space battle from a series.
Oh.
Because otherwise Deep Space Nine would probably have multiple entries. So I decided to spread it out a little bit. So I've just selected 1. So there are 5 series and 2 films in my list. My first one is going back to the original series, and it's season 1's Balance of Terror.
Yeah.
There's not a huge amount of actual battling in space in this one. It's more of a long, protracted battle of wits, which I really like, as each of the captains try to outsmart each other with their tactical nous. It's a very small-scale battle. It's just one-on-one. It's not hundreds of ships firing at each other, so it's very easy to follow on. It's essentially a Cold War naval battle with submarines, and that's the sort of thing that I like. It ends in mutual respect between the two captains, who recognize something of themselves in each other despite their differing ideologies.
They could be friends in a different universe.
Exactly. There's a philosophical edge to the story as well, which I really like. And in terms of story, this would probably be second on my list. It's only in seventh spot because it's lacking in the visual splendor of the others that are ahead of it. But this is the type of episode that I like to watch, and genuinely make me kind of sad that they don't really do this anymore. Just two ships against each other.
I agree with that. So my number 6 is yesterday's Enterprise. The final moments of that, where the Klingons are converging on the Enterprise C and the Enterprise D, and I rewatched, and yeah, it is kind of low tech in the sort of the next gen era TV kind of way, but everything just feels so pumped and epic. And this is Picard vaulting over the security console and firing the torpedoes himself with "That'll Be the Day," and in the same way, that's one of my favorite episodes in general. It's just, it feels so earned.
I knew you were going to talk about the stakes. It's the stakes, I think, that really makes this episode.
Yeah, it does, exactly, because it is both all the stakes and small stakes. That's what's so good about it. Meaning the whole timeline's in jeopardy, in theory, but it's actually still only one battle. And that's what I like. It is kind of antithetical to my number 7 in the sense that the temptation now to go for stakes is to throw everything at the screen. So it's always dozens, hundreds of ships if they want scale. This is four, because you've got 2, is it 2 or 3 Klingon warbirds? I can't remember.
I think it's 3.
I think it's 3. So it's 5 ships. And yeah, everything's still, the timeline itself hangs in the balance of it and sending them back through the rift. And just also, it feels like such a flex. The Enterprise D, even though it loses, is still such a powerhouse of a ship, and it's just, yeah, it's a great moment in one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek. So had to be there. Ian,
My number 6 is Star Trek Nemesis. Great action scene with the battle between the Enterprise and the Scimitar. Bad movie, great scene is all I can say. I mean,
It's the highlight of the film, right?
it is, right? Ram the Scimitar, so off they do, and they ram it. Basin rift, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And the special effects were really cool. That is models that we're talking about at the time. And that looks like stuff blowing up, gentlemen, right?
yeah,
It really works. And I remember seeing that on the big screen while sitting through what I thought was a very disappointing movie, thinking, okay, this is really cool. Now, I had done a set visit to that, and the sets were epic. It was really cool. And based on the scene that we saw being shot, I thought the movie had a lot of promise. One of the scenes that we saw shot was Picard was in the handcuffs talking to Tom Hardy, and that was a reasonably powerful scene. The sets we saw, the costumes we saw Hardy in his that kind of mother of pearl outfit that he was wearing. He was nowhere near as built as he is now. They shaved him bald and he was kind of thin, but you just knew that this had promise. From him to the sets to all that we saw, and it was extremely disappointing, which made that battle sequence all the more worthwhile, is what I was building to here. When I think of Nemesis, really all I think about is that scene, and where the Enterprise is kind of embedded in the side of the Scimitar. And the Scimitar itself was a cool ship. So to see those kind of collide was really neat. And they don't cut away. I mean, they really show the ships colliding. To your point about yesterday's Enterprise, a lot of what we saw was off screen. A lot of what happens in Balance of Terror is off screen, because back then they couldn't afford to do as much as they probably would but to actually see the ship smash in Nemesis was a thrill. I used to love a toy called Smash Up Derby, which was 2 cars that would bump into each other, and it had breakaway parts. So the cars would kind of explode. It's totally what happens between the Enterprise and the Scimitar. So, the reason that works so well for me also is the merging of the models with the CGI. They had 2 large models for the Enterprise and the Scimitar that they smashed together on set and then enhanced everything with the CGI. That works really convincingly, and I think it holds up really well all this time later. I think people even debate, was that fully CGI or not? But if you look at it closely, you can tell that it's models. It was an interesting fact that it's enhanced with CGI. I wish they did more of that now, rather than just all CGI.
Yeah, agreed. Tobes?
My 6 spot goes to Enterprise, and there were some options here. I certainly thought about In a Mirror Darkly, and then there's the Romulan trilogy as well. I thought about that. I thought about 0 Hour and Future Tenses episodes, but ultimately I went for season 3's Countdown, which is essentially Xindi versus Xindi, with the NX-01 working with the combined factions of the aquatics, arboreals, and primates to take on the reptilians and the sphere builders. And it's an epic showdown, it really is. Throw in a daring rescue of Ensign Sato by the Makos, and I think you have possibly one of Enterprise's most thrilling sequences across the series. It is all CG, but I think it looks great, and they actually won an Emmy for outstanding visual effects for this episode. And I have to say, the aquatic ship is amazing, and it was designed by John Eaves.
Yeah, of course.
Shout out to John.
Yeah, the difference is that in this phase, the CGI was in both Nemesis and also Enterprises. They're replicating or trying to replicate the model, the look of the model, for continuity. And I think that's probably an important distinction. By the time we get to where we were from JJ on, they weren't trying to have a similar coherent look. They were going for splashy as possible.
Well, I think the art department is obviously so very much involved, and there's a continuity there where the art department crossed over from doing practical models through to the CG era. So I think that helped a lot of it. By the time you get to JJ, it's just all VFX artists. So the art department is involved in sort of designing, but they know it's going to go straight to CG. So maybe that's the reason why it works a little better.
Yeah.
And I would just like to add that this episode was directed by Tom Paris, Robert Duncan McNeil.
Oh, okay. Cool. Excellent. Robbie's always good value.
I think it was his last Star Trek episode that he directed, actually.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay, so my number 5 is a very brief, really, on screen, but it's one of those things. This is a space battle. If I'm doing I want a quick Star Trek pick-me-up, rousing, lifting moment, I go to this as a thing. So it's the Battle of Sector 001 from First Contact.
That was my number 8. That was the one that didn't make the list.
Yeah, I love this section.
So this is the one that I thought all of you would have this way higher. This is the one that is not in my list at all. I admitted it.
No, it's because it's too short to be any higher.
That's the reason.
But it is really one moment that keeps it in the list, and the reason it's that beat where you've gone the Defiant. It's being battered by the Borg cube. Adam Scott's on the helm. Never seen him on DS9 before. Anyway, Worf is captaining, and it's all ramming speed. And then the phrase, "There's another ship coming in," and in a different sense, we talk about scale a lot. So then when the Enterprise pulls in front of the Defiant and dwarfs it, that sense of size is really strong and really, really works. And that, of course, is the first time we've seen the Enterprise. We had the shots earlier, but it's the first time we've seen it in battle. And it's such a beautiful ship that Johnny Eaves designed. And they up the stakes a little bit in terms of the VFX. So that there's the phasers, the greens from the Borg, they're all very heightened and very pronounced and slightly more stylized. I mean, including Eaves designing the ship. We talk about there was a step away from the Aztecing that had been the traditional one, and it's slightly more overt and written it and visible in terms of the design on the outside, and it's a very sleek and very sexy ship, and it's absolutely loved it. So it's brief, It's why it's no higher, but I will watch that one bit over and over again and just really, really love it.
I agree with you. I love that sequence. The reason it didn't make my list is just because it's switched over so quickly.
Right, that's same.
Yeah, so shame. Well, should I say as well the Jerry Goldsmith score, the full TNG motion picture fanfare coming in. Sir, it's the Enterprise. Yeah, perfect Star Trek space.
I'm genuinely surprised. I honestly thought, well, A, I thought both of you would have this in your list, and B, I thought they would be much higher. I thought I was going to be an outlier on that one.
No, just not quite long enough. And also, it's not a climax. It doesn't. As the sequence goes on, as you go, once they've destroyed the ship and you move into the temporal wake stuff, it's not quite strong. So it's too brief, not a climax. But what is there is stylish and epic and brilliant. And at that point, after arguably the slight disappointment of Generations, it was a real statement in terms of visual and style and energy for the film. So yeah, Ian.
My number 5 is Battle of Wolf 359, Best of Both Worlds 1 and 2. And here's why it's important, because it also carries over to Deep Space Nine in Emissary. So here is an instance of less is more. We don't get tons of the battle until another series, which is really interesting to me. This sequence affects 2 shows very dramatically, and it alters our introduction to Avery Brooks. Cisco is a different character because of the events of this scene in the previous show. So I think it's hugely important, and it's cool to look at. It's extraordinarily well acted. The tension between the characters is there. Captains or whatever, commander and a captain at odds is fascinating to me when you get to the emissary sections. But it's really important in the development of Next Generation, obviously. It's structurally well done. It is canon well done. And it's just a cool battle to look at on screen. So I think it works for multiple reasons, more than some other scenes. There are ones you look at and you go, and one of my top ones is it's just a great scene. It doesn't change everything in every one. My number 1 is a perfect example of that, and I think we may all be on the same page with number 1. But it's a great scene at my number 1, but it's not as impactful on the franchise itself as Battle of Wolf 359.
And you don't see it again, but you reference it First Contact, Voyager, Picard.
Well, you don't really see it in Best of Both Worlds, right? Don't you? It's the aftermath.
You see the aftermath, but you get teases of it. And what you really see it is Emissary.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of flashbacky. Yep. But you see the damage that was done and Picard looking in on the damage. So this is one where it's suggested more than shown, and then it's shown more than suggested later on. And I just thought that was a really smart play. I'm assuming that was all down to Michael Piller.
Yeah, and it has that great shot in the Emissary, doesn't it? Where the shuttle, and as it pulls out, and the ship in the background dropping away and exploding, which is a really nice effects work.
My 5th spot is also Next Gen, and I think Next Gen probably did space battles the least, certainly in that era. So it was actually kind of quite tricky. They had like little engagements, but not really battles per se. I did think about Redemption. There's some good stuff in there. I also considered Yesterday's Enterprise, which I think is probably more thrilling because, as you mentioned, the stakes. But my pick for Next Generation is actually Season 2's peak performance, which I think is a good early-ish Next Gen episode. I love the fact that it's Picard versus Riker. I like that it's the superior Enterprise D, the flagship, versus the 80-year-old Hathaway. And again, it's one of those ones, it's an intelligent fight. It's a battle of wits with Riker and his crew proving themselves and pulling some great tricks out of the bag, even though they know they're never going to win that fight. And then obviously the Ferengi show up and that adds extra nuance in there as well. But I think this shows that Riker would make a great captain. It takes him a long time to get there, but he would be a good captain, and one that's very different to Picard as well. And It's the second appearance of Armin Shimmerman in Star Trek, playing a Ferengi, Damon Bractor. The first was in The Last Outpost, and obviously he'd go on to play Quark, which we all know. But and also you've got Total Recall's Roy Brocksmith, as well as the master strategist Sima Kolrami, who plays a very annoying character. But I love the way that he walks.
Who is a Zarkon, which is the species I included in my series pitch.
Yes.
Well, that's cool. Good pick. My number 4 is Wolf 359. For all the reasons that Ian said. It's slightly unusual in the sense that, exactly as you said, Ian, you write down Wolf 359 and then you realise how many places it happens. And I think there's going to be an interesting distinction here, which is, I think, if my hunch is right, when I say battle, I don't necessarily mean everything you see. It's the whole, the drama as well for me, which is not a distinction that I necessarily thought about beforehand. But, and this is a case in point, the resonance of seeing the wreckage in The Best of Both Worlds is really significant. So much so that when you realise that's where Emissary is starting, you sit forward in your chair. Because are they going to show it? Are they going to show it? Because you know that it wasn't in because they couldn't afford it. Mm-hmm. What a bold way to start the new Star Trek show, by putting the money in that's in a pilot into showing you something. And you talk about fan service, but it's not fan service in the fact that you go, oh well, I expect to see Wolf 359. It's completely left field, and catches you off guard, and then it's big.
I don't think this is fan service at all. It's just using an event that people are aware of to set up something complete and set up characters that are impacted by an event.
Oh no, you're absolutely right.
It was also too early for fan service.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We live in a different world. I think is probably the prism that I mean by that. That now it would be harder to do that, and that sort of thing happens more regularly. So it was epic before you saw it, if that makes any sense. And then you saw it and it was just as good as you hoped it would be. Ian?
My number 4 is Call to Arms, Deep Space Nine.
Cool.
Now, this is where I originally had First Contact and decided it was too short. Call to Arms is much like Battle of Wolf on TNG, sets the stage for much more to come. But there is an actual battle here. It's much longer. It's extraordinarily well done. You've got the minefields as well that Sisko sets out. It's a season finale that does a great job of setting up season 6. It's all about Sisko being a great tactician and strategist, which I thought was a really good character development. And it was a lot about Sisko, period. If I'm not mistaken, this is the baseball coming to use. He leaves it there. More or less, that's his I'll be back moment.
Statement of intent.
Exactly. And think about it. They lost the battle here. In hindsight, maybe he threw the battle because he was helping the rest of Starfleet do their thing elsewhere. It created the great distraction of forces from the enemy. So I thought the battle itself was cool, and I thought the battle fit within a much bigger picture that Ira Bear was doing at the time for the show. Still stands out to me as A, a really good battle, and B, a really cool finale and a great building block for the next season.
It was definitely on my shortlist, this one.
Yeah, mine too.
But didn't make it?
It didn't make it, no. I went for a different Deep Space Nine episode, because I said I'm only picking one from each series.
Wow, and it's funny that mine's that high up. You know, it's funny, I've got 2 from one series, but I've got 3 films.
Right.
Well, I've only got one from, well, if you don't count Wolf 359, you can, but I've got a different DS9 one a bit higher.
Yeah, so
I think you and I have the same one.
My 4th spot is I picked Voyager in this spot, and there was loads to choose from here. Voyager got into tons of space battles and scrapes. I thought of Unimatrix 1, I thought of Equinox, I thought of The Void, which is a really interesting one.
I avoided that one.
Oh, let's cut that
out. Nope, now it's staying in.
Ladies and gentlemen, notice that Ian's spelling is not laughing.
Ultimately, I went for Year of Hell. I mean, I think we've talked about this episode tons.
That's what we should have called the first season of our podcast.
But then what do you call the second one? Redemption.
Right?
Yeah.
This episode, it's a two-parter. It's a great two-parter. We all love it as an episode. We love the guest stars and everything. But I think what this does is it shows just how far Janeway is willing to go. And that's all demonstrated by that final battle with the Krenim time ship and Voyager and the assembled fleet of alien ships. And ultimately, she opts to ram the ship and tough son of a bitch.
Yeah, always.
It's a thrilling piece. It's a great finale to a fantastic episode.
Agreed. So my number 3 is the other end of your number 4, Ian. It is Operation Return from Sacrifice of Angels and Deep Space Nine.
Sacrifice of Angels is my third spot as well.
My number 2.
Ah, there you go. Okay, cool. To mirror what you said, when I think of space battles, in terms of scale, it's this. It's every time. Just the volume of ships, the stakes, all the different types of vessels, all the races involved, and so much beautiful choreography. And whenever we moan about the modern CGI space battles and not being sure what's going on, this is the thing they should all be made to watch, because it's absolutely pinpoint clear what's going on to whom, when, the way it's edited, the way the effects are executed. They're varied and interesting, and yet everything works. It feels... in fact, it felt unbelievable watching it the first time. I don't know how you guys felt about it. That you were like, I can't believe they've done something this big.
Mind blown.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you're just like, wow. So I was at university when it came out, so I would have watched it on a relatively small TV. And I remember thinking, oh, God, I've got to see this bigger. When you make an argument for saying, I really wish they would upscale and do the HD version of Deep Space Nine, this is just a crime you can't see this in HD.
Mm-hmm.
It would be one of the, if not the most epic piece of space battle in Star Trek ever. And it puts all the people who say they prefer Star Wars for that reason, knocks all that into a cocktail. It's just so big. Some people don't like this. I'm doing the research. I saw some people don't, but I really like the fact that Prophets are brought in as the final piece of the puzzle, because that's the difference. It feels very organic to the show's premise and to Cisco to do that, which is, I'm going to use the Prophets to stop the Dominion coming through the wormhole, to stop the reinforcements, because I can, and that's why he's on the side of righteousness. That level of extra stance, especially as we've discussed many times on Deep Space Nine, that Cisco's been willing to do certain things, it compromised his moral ethics to achieve the end result. The fact that he's still, in a way, sort of Thor-style worthy to get the Prophets to do that is immense. And
I don't mean this as a pun, but it really is prophetic stuff.
Yeah.
It's fantastic writing. It really is. It works. It's satisfying because it's at the conclusion to that 6-episode arc where they're going back to the station. It's large scale, but there are these important moments that are character moments. So for me, another scene that stuck out was the female changeling telling Weyoun that Odo will eventually rejoin the Great Link.
And it happens.
Yeah, exactly. So there's this prophetic element to this episode, which has been throughout Deep Space Nine. That's why we love the show.
Toby, I got your text that says, listen to this great pun.
If I was going to pick another one, it would actually probably be Way of the Warrior, but the reason that didn't end up in is I think actually that goes too much into hand-to-hand on the station.
Yes.
As epic and as big as the Klingon incursion is. And it's also the fact it's Klingons, just Klingons really. Whereas this is because you've got Cardassians and Breen and I mean, God, everything you can think of. And crucially, a variety of Federation ships. And why anyone ever thought that wasn't the answer when you populate a big fleet from the Federation, I don't know.
It's just more visually satisfying.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and watching Ducat have humble pie shoved down his big Cardassian throat is just awesome. And the baseball, as you said, Ian, a lovely kappa.
Right, it was my pick for Deep Space Nine. There were other episodes which maybe I won't mention because perhaps you'll bring them up. But Sacrifice, it's in the title, but it is a real key theme of this episode, and it's relevant to both sides of the Dominion War and its combatants. There's lots of stuff about faith and duty and the cost of victory as well, and in particular, I guess, the impact on Ducat and Garrick with the death of CL. Certainly for Ducat, well, actually Garrick as well, in terms of the vengeance that drives them for the rest of the series. Yeah, I loved it. I loved the fact that they had the Alfred Tennyson Charge of the Light Brigade poem in there as well. I think that works really well. And the space battles are fantastic.
It's also that lovely moment where you've got all these ships, and ultimately the sort of heroic moment is one ship.
Yeah.
The Defiant bursting through the lines off on its own back to DS9. You're like, that is so satisfying.
My number 3 is Balance of Terror.
My number 2 is Balance of Terror.
It's a great episode. It is brilliantly written. It is terrifically acted. And it's space battle on a budget. You create the tension without tons of special effects. They're not on a gimbal per se, but just shake the ship a little bit and utter some lines like you mean it. And you had great actors doing some great acting in this episode, and it just holds up for me. It's still up there in my top 4 or 5 TOS episodes. Absolutely up there as one of my favorites. And for a good reason. We're talking 60 years ago now, right? The battle stuff, you get just enough of it that you believe what's happening on the ship. And what more do you want? I don't have much else to say about it. If you're going to do a low-budget battle episode, almost a bottle episode, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah.
Look how high this is on the list. It just shows you how well it was done.
Well, I mean, when I spoke about it, I said this would probably be right up top. It was only in 7th spot because of, in terms of the spectacle, I think there's better. What I'm curious about is, did you rewatch it, Ian?
Yeah.
Did you watch the original broadcast version, or did you watch the newer version that has the newer effects? Because I watched both.
So did I.
Just out of interest.
I have seen both. In the rewatch, it was the original.
Because it's very empty in the original.
It's fine. Again, part of the fun of the show was using your imagination to fill in the blanks.
That's true. It's not a criticism. It's just very interesting watching them side by side.
But in my head, the voice that's talking to me about this episode is my 15, 16-year-old me that watched it on my black and white television in the I guess, mid-1970s in syndication. So it didn't matter to me that it was a little sparse. I mean, look, it was on Channel 11. Channel 11 after school when you got home had family/children programming. And one of the things was a game where it was WPIX Channel 11. And they had like a Space Invaders type of game. Instead of pew, 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 you said pix. And it fired the little laser at the enemy ships coming down. It was like the game Space Command.
Yeah.
So you literally had whoever the host was and some kid who managed to get through on the phone line going, pix. And I think they won $5 for each ship that they blew up. I didn't need anything fancy in terms of special effects in 1975. I really didn't. So that worked for me, partly because of the story and partly because the effects were just enough to buy what was happening on the screen.
Yeah, I agree. So it's a very simple thing for me. When we picked this theme, the top 2 are the first 2 things I thought, and I trusted that.
But it's interesting, Rich. This was my number 2 until I swapped my number 2 and number 3. Number 1 stayed the same from the get-go.
So did mine.
Same.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 1 was rock solid, never going to move. So I did move this up and down to mirror what you said, Tobes. But then ultimately, I just thought, you know what? And I did rewatch both versions, and I agree with you, Toby. But because the new one exists, that shows how good it was. Meaning, does elevate it a little. I do think so, because it just gives it a little bit more content.
Oomph.
Yeah, a little bit more oomph. Good word. But it's just adding what's already there. It's supplementing it rather than changing it. So it's not like a George Lucas thing where it feels like it retools it too much.
Yeah, I also happen to be a purist. So
yeah, which is
tend
fine.
to go with the original of anything.
I think for me, my list, I just looking through it, I think how I did it was it's kind of like an escalation in terms of battle. So, like, as I mentioned, in terms of story, this would probably be much higher on my list. But because there's not much space battle in it, that's why it kind of it's as you mentioned, it's all reaction and.
But that is the battle. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's an interesting distinction here. I can't separate the two.
For me, I think it is an escalation,
which is a absolutely reasonable interpretation. But it is come down to in a different sense, the purity of the drama, which is the top two I've chosen because I'm locked in, and I'm gripped, and I'm there, and it's like, and you're on the edge of your seat, and it's, you're in a vice-like grip of attention, and that is what makes it so great. And also, there's a type of space battle here in the top two, which you don't really get anywhere else, and it is what you said, Toby, about the sort of submarine style thing, where it is as important what you can't see as what you can. And in a weird way, for me, that sort of exemplifies what Star Trek has over a lot of other franchises. It isn't literally what's on screen always. It's that and what it means, and the technique, and the storytelling, and the character, and all of that really working. And what you don't show is often as dramatic as what you do. While I think my number one is the best space battle in Star Trek, this is the most emblematic of that. This should, by all intents and purposes, for all the reasons you've given, shows for why it's lower in your list, which is, again, totally valid, it's still fucking fantastic.
I'm going to assume that we all have the same number one, and I know that my list is bookended because it's essentially the same thing, same scenario in terms of a submarine battle. Just one is
better,
much more visually pleasing than the other.
Anyway, so that's my number two, Balance of Terror.
My number two is Sacrifice of Angels. For all the reasons we previously discussed. Dominion War, lots of ships. This is my notes right here. Dominion War, lots of ships, lots of risky, righteous decision-making, and the Defiant. Those are literally the 5 words I have written on my sheet of paper here. I really have nothing else to add to it. It's one of my favorite episodes. It's one of my favorite battles, obviously, if it's number 2 on my list.
Yep.
I think it's just great television. It's super great, for lack of a better word. Deep Space Nine and Star Trek. It's just a personal favorite. What's interesting to me is if you said, what are your top 5 episodes of Deep Space Nine? I don't even think it would make my top 5.
No, me either.
That's how many episodes of Deep Space Nine I like.
Yeah, I totally agree. But when you focus it down to this theme, it goes
right, way up.
Interesting.
Well, my second spot is Star Trek Nemesis, and it is the battle between the E and the Scimitar. I love the design of all the ships, including the Valdor type warbirds. Really like those. The movie's a dog. Putting that aside, the final space battle is probably the best executed and most visually pleasing of all the space battles in the films, albeit not my number one spot, because I have a love for my number one spot, which I think we're all going to be exactly the same on it. But this is it's exciting, it's thrilling. It's like, again, it's another game of cat and mouse with a cloaking ship. Although I do have a big space battle with Deep Space Nine, and maybe you could argue Voyager, most of mine have been like one-on-ones, because that's the sort of tension that I enjoy the most, or very small scale.
Fully respect that.
It also makes space feel very big. That is what you lose slightly when you have a huge number of ships, is that sense of, when it's done well, it doesn't matter, but often it's not, isn't it? And when you get these one-on-ones, and it's just why Balance of Terror, it feels enormous, and yet it has that unknowable sense like the ocean does. There's a submarine sort of battle, and I think, again, that really helps.
Although I really detest the distasteful, inciting incident that creates the link, the moment where Deanna actually finds the Scimitar using her telepathy is absolutely brilliant, lovely moment. And I love also the fact that Shinzon's downfall is a failing that an older Picard recognized in his younger self. It's that overconfidence and arrogance, and then he flips it and he uses it to his advantage to incapacitate the Scimitar. I love this sequence. I do watch this sequence quite a lot. Not the rest of the movie.
Whereas I haven't, because it's in that movie. I think I'd already checked out. by that point.
Thank God Blu-rays have got chapters. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I know, and I do watch bits. This is the thing, I do watch bits, but whatever itch it scratches, for me, I go straight to that beginning of First Contact.
I mean, I would suggest rewatching it if you've not seen it for a while.
No, I might, especially as you put it so high.
That whole sequence is just really good. I mean, skip the rest of them. Skip the Dune buggy and all that nonsense.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's the Dune buggy. I got to get through the Dune buggy. Awesome. Right. So I think we've probably all got the same number one. So I will, as it's in the order, I will name the battle. But then, if we are all agreed what our number one is, then it's just a free for all over who wants to say whatever they want to say.
Is it purple and pink themed?
It is purple and pink themed. So my number one, the greatest favourite, all of those things, space battle in all of Star Trek, is the Battle of the Mutara Nebula from Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. How about it, gentlemen?
That's mine.
Yeah, same. It's a thrilling chess game, that's all I'll say, between two brilliant tactical minds. It just comes down to experience at the end of the day. And there's a brilliant score. James Horner's score, never better. He knows how to use silence, knows how to bring in the music. Although it's small scale in terms of it's just 2 years, there are real stakes. And the result, there's a real emotional impact to what happens.
It's a tactical beauty, the way that they literally take the time, go up, go down, go around, let's go in the nebula. The strategy involved by both of them, the different styles of command that we see, the fact that those two characters are never together and yet the tension between them is absolutely insane. Fabulous performances from Ricardo Montalban and Shatner here. The music, the editing, the visual effects. That nebula is so cool. Then just the sound when they're going through it. Forget about the music for a minute. It's almost like you're driving through static on a television set after midnight back in the old days when they just, in the States, played the national anthem and it just went, that was the end of your telecast for the evening. I just, everything about that, to the point that we were talking about Balance of Terror. This was, for 1982, a high-end version of a budget battle. Yeah. And it was brilliantly done. I was going to joke that the season 1 finale of Picard at Ego, whatever the hell that episode was titled, where we had the copy and paste of whatever gazillion ships. Yeah. That's the expensive version of absolutely nothing. It just is empty television right there. Am I supposed to be scared by all these ships?
It's like a counterfeit dollar bill. It might look right, but
it ain't right. Yeah, right. It got you nothing.
We've talked a lot about special effects in terms of the CGI versus model and all that stuff. And in the end, the essence of it comes down to the fact that when it's perfectly executed, the special effects become an extension of the story. We're all agreed on that. And too often in modern films and TV, it's the reverse, which is they previs and design sequences, which then dictate what happens because they want to do those. This, and the nature of the way special effects were done at the time, how much longer they took, it was never done that way around. Yes, there'd be storyboards, yes, there'd be those things, but it was... So I'm echoing everything you guys have already said, which is that those models move and interact as extensions of their captains. That's an incredible thing to have pulled off. So you can, just by the way they slightly cant the camera for the Reliant and embody it slightly. We talked about this after we watched it recently at the IMAX in the Science Museum, Toes, wasn't it? The fact that at one point the bridge of the Reliant is giving out a red light for no reason really, except that it's the devil ship. It wouldn't do it. It's just like, and it really works with James Horner's swell of demonic score. But just the fact the Reliant is never quite on an even keel and things like that. So the captain is crazy and stuff like that. That decision, and the Enterprise, although it does rotate and turn, it's never quite like that. The shape of the Reliant, the design of the Reliant, even though we know it's a slight accident that it was supposed to be the other way up, but it just worked that it felt slightly off because it wasn't supposed to be like that. All of those choices, whether accidental, whether meaningful, they build to that point where it's that moment where all the arts involved, all the crafts involved in cinema come together and it just pops. And you don't think about the special effects versus the music. Not really. It's our job in this scenario to pull it apart, but it's just so coherent and a whole, and it just works. And you're lost in it. You're there. Absolutely right, Ian. The crackle of the view screen, exactly what you said, Toby, as well. She's the silence in the score.
Yeah, and the pings of the machinery of the bridge.
Horner comes back in with full roaring horns at the moment when the screen coalesces and you just see the Reliant is right in front of them and that sort of thing. And it's and we've said this before about Wrath of Khan, it's pure cinema, regardless of Star Trek. And it shows you what's capable, what's possible. Star Wars is always a bit splashy. It rarely has the subtlety of anything here, where everything is an expression of character.
Well, not in the JJ movies.
No. Don't get me wrong, it's awfully impressive what happens in Star Wars, and I love the original trilogy, but it's never this subtle. It isn't. Everything's a lot more... It's dogfights in space. It's World War II. This is, as we've said, just that slightly strategic chess game that you can feel the ships stalking each other in the nebula.
I would argue that it's what was your adjective there? Slightly?
Yeah.
Much more than slightly. It's all strategic maneuvering.
Yeah.
That's what made it fun. Who's going to win that battle of the mind?
Yeah, and you can feel it. So, I mean, the wheels turning. Yeah, every choice in the edit is about their brains and their thinking.
Right.
And how you know that Kirk with Spock as well on the bridge and all those things has just enough extra balance to win it.
Kirk he's not afraid to take advice, whereas Khan is I'm right.
Poor
this
power,
is what
damn you.
The thing that interests me is just imagine Balance of Terror with this kind of epic finale battle in it.
Well, wasn't that done on another Star Trek show?
If that was the case, would Balance of Terror then top all our lists, or would Wrath of Khan still be in there?
I think the thing that Ian cited is the reason it wouldn't. Now, I love Mark Leonard in Balance of Terror, and we all like the simpatico nature of those two captains and their similarity and how they could have been friends. The thing which underlies all of this in Wrath of Khan, the whole movie and this sequence especially, is that uncanny counterpoint of Montalban and Shatner. And Maya's true gift as director on this was, as you rightly said, Ian, they're never in a room together.
Right.
They never had sound recorded. It wasn't piped in, but he kept those two guys, and them too, of course. I mean, this is both of those actors at the top of their game.
That's the same with the Romulan commander, though.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't have the verbal antagonism that is going
Or
on.
as much of it.
Yeah, Khan is so vivid. So vivid.
Too vivid.
No,
I would say.
no, I don't think so. I don't. I think I would really take issue with anyone claiming his performance was too big.
Bigger than his chest?
Well, precisely. Those are some great boobies.
He also had much more screen time.
Yeah, of course. But all of that's important.
Plus, whatever happened to the Romulan commander actor? I mean, he was disappeared and never seen again, was he?
Yeah, he was in the next film. So yeah, I think it wouldn't. I think there's something the same way that Wrath of Khan is, for me, remains the best piece of Star Trek in the sense of that it transcends the franchise. I think this space battle reflects that. So would be number one. Because you could even, if I was being really boring, I also would have had the first exchange in between the Reliant and the Enterprise with the prefix code in this list too. But I thought that might be a bit too tedious, so I didn't do that. Arguably, it's got one of the other great space battles in it, let alone this. So
That's it.
great. Well, those are our picks for the greatest space battles, our favourite space battles in all of Star Trek. But what are yours? What do you think of our list? Please let us know, email us, drop us a comment. All the details are included in our description. And we'd love to know what you think and why you think we're wrong. We might, hunt you down with our own Reliant if you disagree with Wrath of Khan, but yeah.
That would be a losing battle.
It would, exactly. Awesome. So, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon beyond the final frontier.
Peace, love, and logic, everybody.
And ta-ra a bit.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Final Frontier, a Star Trek podcast with Rich Matthews, Ian Spelling and Toby Weidman. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email us on beyondffpod@gmail.com or check us out on social media. You can even join our Patreon at BFF Beyond the Final Frontier. Huge thanks go out to Alex Weidman for the brilliant original music. Please search Alex Weidman Composer on YouTube to hear the full fantastic theme and more. Also thanks goes to award-winning voiceover artist Cissy Jones for our excellent opening monologue. Find out more about her incredible work at cissyjones.com. And of course, last but not least, our brilliant artwork comes from the designer Russell Seal. Discover more of his work on behance.net/Russell Seal. Thanks again and see you next episode, Beyond the Final Frontier.